Hi everyone, I'm Mike and this is the Sunday Art Show. Today we're down at the beach again. It's Exmouth, which is down in the south coast of Devon, and beautiful sunny day, and this is actually the middle of February, so although I actually had a different video planned for this week, I thought I'd just give you a brief glimpse of this wonderful weather. It's such a rarity at this time of year. So I'm starting off with my usual pad of A4 mixed media paper. And as you can see, I've got a watercolour marker pen, and I'm just popping in a couple of lines to indicate the distant range of hills that you can see across the water there. So by holding the pad up, more or less at eye level, it's a really neat way to just quickly sight where the land lies. So it's a quick way to get the perspective roughly correct and get the proportions roughly correct. You can just see where the land disappears behind the edge of your pad. And it allows you to just compose the scene fairly quickly. So you just saw a dog walking along the beach there, so if you ever go down to Exmouth and you're a dog lover, that's the place to be. Lots of different breeds that come wandering along. And I'm just about to pop in an indication of the shoreline there, disappearing off into the distance. Another dog. So off into the water now. So it doesn't quite pick up with the angle I had my head camera, but what I'm actually doing is just wandering into the shallows, and I've got my little inktense travel kit with me, with the little water brush. So I've just bent down and filled up the handle of the water brush, now chasing a loose piece of paper, one of the hazards of working in the open air. But I've just filled the water brush handle up with water, and if you just look at my cast shadow, you can just about make out that I'm screwing the two halves of the water brush together. So it's fully loaded with water now. And I'm ready to use the little inktense travel kit to start putting some colour in. So back to standing at the shallows. You may remember from the summer I actually did some work where I was standing in the shallows of the water, but that was at Dawlish Warren, which is actually just about less than a mile across the water on the opposite shore. So I'll put a link in the description to this video actually to that previous one, but you can just about see on the pad of paper there that I've started to indicate the sky with the inktense. And it was a little bit too cold today to be barefoot in the water. I did have my wellies on, so I do wander into the water occasionally, just wetting the bristles of the brush there to help the water get flowing in this little water brush. So a couple of weeks ago I was painting horses with this water brush and struggling a little bit. Last week I did a landscape and coped rather better as I got used to it. But I still intend to get hold of a flat water brush and some larger water brushes to kind of experiment with different styles and things. So, but whether it's cold or whether it is the middle of summer, painting outdoors, as I've said many times, I'm really enjoying. But painting outdoors on the beach, standing in the shallows, that's something else. That's really good fun. So as you can see, I've just started to put in a little indication of the purpley greys, distant bluey greys of the very distant hills. And I just blocked that in as a simple wash, really. For the next range of hills, I'm putting in some more texture and a little bit more of a mix of colour. So difficult to see on camera because the fisheye tends to push things off into the distance. But there are some sort of purples, some very pale oranges, some autumnal colours. And what I've done now is pop in some yellowy orange for the distant beach. So that little strip of yellow you can see on the painting, that's actually what's known as Dawlish Warren. So it's basically a huge sandbank which almost blocks the mouth of the River Exe. So although what you're seeing here looks like the sea, it's pretty much where we're pretty much at the mouth of the River Exe, where the sea is just opening out into the estuary and going into the sea. If I went left, it would be fully open sea. If I went right, it would be the river. So jumping ahead a little bit in time now, you can see I've popped in some colour. Another dog. I've popped in some colour for the water, and this little water brush, this little round water brush, worked really well for that actually. I was able to put in large textured marks by letting the brush skip across the paper, and then for the foreground water, and then as the paint ran out on the brush, smaller, more lightly touched marks for the distant water. So that worked. I felt that worked quite well, because obviously we're just doing a quick observational sketch from life here in just a few minutes. And the idea is to just capture something of the scene, and then the sketch is a little miniature work of art in its own right. But then equally for the future I can use this sketch as reference for a more finished painting that I might do at home, or I might do down at the beach when the weather's a bit warmer and a bit calmer. So I'm now heading back. I just packed away my Inktense kit. No, I didn't. I've got it with me still. But what I just dropped on the sand, and this kindly gentleman with another dog helped me out with, I just managed to drop my watercolour markers on the sand there. So here's a quick still of what I've done so far. And what I'm about to do is just pop in a little bit of line work in the foreground to kind of bring some of that forward. Now you can probably just about make it out. There's actually a little sailing boat off in the distance on the water there, and so I was holding my pad up to kind of just get the perspective right on that. You can see the sun is just catching the white of the sails there. So I decided to put that in with the watercolour marker, just a quick outline. And that's going to help, just add a little sense of scale to the finished picture. And what I'm going to do, I think, is I do fill in the hull with a little bit of Inktense, and I may well end up filling in the sails with a little bit of acrylic now that I'm home. But what I wanted to show you was just what I managed to do while I was stood on the sand. And so I'll give you a close-up of the painting as usual in just a few seconds. But that's pretty much the end of my study at the beach. So let me show you a quick close-up of the finished painting. So just achieved in, probably about 20 minutes in total. I didn't actually time it, stood on the sand there. And that includes going back and forth to get my materials, but really good fun. As usual, I'll put the link to the description for the high resolution image on my website. So if you want to check that out, please feel free to click on the link below. And in the meantime, just a short little video this week, but I look forward to seeing you next Sunday for the next episode of the Sunday Art Show. Thanks very much for watching.